Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in on your business. We've talked to people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all the things that we experience as small business owners, come out the other side more knowledgeable, with more skills and more experience, that are willing to come on the show, teach us how to do that same thing so that we can run our businesses more effectively. So thank you for being here. First of all, I wanted to say that up front. Anybody that give some time to me, give some time to the audience is very valuable to us, and we appreciate it a lot. So, and I mean that. I appreciate you very much. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are and about your business, my friend?
Hey, my name is Dr. Adam Massoud. I'm the owner of Greenwich Wellness, which is a holistic health center in Greenwich, Connecticut. We do acupuncture, chiropractic, nutrition, a lot of sports medicine. We do treat a lot of athletes. I've been doing that. I've been in practice about 20 years, seen over 10,000 patients. Initially started the business. A lot of people who are in my shoes or go down the path I went probably had some kind of bad experience, with the medical care system. And, they kind of tend to realize there's a better way to do things. And so what happened for me was personally, I had a father who was really poorly managed by the surgeons in the medical community, and watching his health constantly suffer was a big motivation for me to figure out there's got to be a better way, right, than just drugging someone up and cutting them up. So I didn't know which type of doctor I wanted to be, but as I researched that these became the paths for me, because all the basic sciences tell us what we need to be healthy. But then somehow I know I could tell you exactly how pharmacology became
Sure.
the method, and that's mostly stems back to Rockefeller back in the 30s. And so when you uncover why, the sick care system is a sick care system, then you can, look at what we really need to do to be well. And so it's been my passion to deliver, holistic health that is always aimed at the root of the problem and not just treating the symptoms, which you hear people say a lot, but very few people in effect do. So that's what we do. And well, being an athlete myself, there's always been a sports medicine component. Before I was a chiropractor, I was a strength and conditioning coach with the University of Kentucky basketball team. So, just working with a lot of athletes. So that's always been like my sweet spot, my own personal interest. So we do a variety of things at the office, and really just trying to give people to live their best health and express their highest level of vitality. And when you understand these things that make you better, you're kind of liberated from the sick care system. Not to say that there's never a time for, medical intervention, drug surgery, they could save your life, but they're different than health. That's not healthcare, that's medicine. And
Sure.
the two have been, one is kind of eclipsed through marketing. And as all these entrepreneurs will know, you get a message shoved down people's throat enough, they start to accept it as fact, which is good for the business, but not necessarily good for the person on the other end receiving the less than optimal product that's being delivered to them.
So tell me a little bit about where you are. We talked a little bit about it on the phone when we talked the first time.
The community
You're in a
that practices in,
you're in a pretty unique place, if I remember
it's a
correctly.
different kind of place for sure. It took me some time to adjust to my demographic, because I'm not from the area that I practice in. It's Greenwich, Connecticut. It's one of the oldest towns in the country. It's pretty much a Wall Street hedge fund. Um, it's like a CEO kind of capital. It has the most hedge funds. I think, you know, I think there's like over almost 300 hedge funds in Greenwich. It's a big financial town, big finance. And I think the average home in Greenwich is probably, last I heard, it was like 2.6 million, 2.7 million. And this is a town with over 60,000 people. So that's staggering, right? To have that many people in the average. I mean, I think I was telling you on the phone, they broke records last year. Like a home just sold for like 125 million over that. I think, and then it goes back and forth. But Greenwich is the wealthiest, the most billionaires in the country live in a per square mile, I guess, are in Greenwich. They have like this billionaire triangle part of town. And so it's on the water, it's about a half hour north of New York City. It's more of a New York suburb than it really is a Connecticut, because it's this bottom corner of Connecticut. So, typically most of the people there are working in Manhattan. And what happens is they move there once they get married, have kids. And Greenwich is like a short commute into the city, but you got amazing schools, amazing properties. And so that tends to be, the demographic that makes that area up. There's some diversity, but it hardly.
Yeah.
So it's a different community, but I, we we were talking about how you got to be on your game, right? If you're dealing with someone like this, these people have the means to do whatever it is they want to do. They can get whatever treatment they want to get. They're not basically being funneled by a system to do anything outside of what they want. Like when you're worth $1 billion, or when you're worth $200 million, it's not like, what is my insurance dictating I can do for this healthcare? They're like, I want the best, right? And in some of what I've noticed in some of the lower socioeconomic communities is um, they just, from where I grew up, right? If you took a person and said, we're gonna put you out of work, we're gonna take you out of work, we're gonna put you on disability, we're gonna give you all these medications, and some of these people are okay with that because once you go on disability or something, and no one wants to be in that situation, but you could live on disability where I grew up. But if your monthly nut is like,
Yeah,
like you can't
yeah,
tell
a
someone who
million
makes
bucks. Yeah,
20 million a year that we're going to put you on 400 a week, and they're going to be okay with it. So you have a lot of real type A people, tons of weekend warriors. So guys working 12, 14 hours a week, commuting into the city. Some of that has shifted since the pandemic. So with all the working remote, but now a lot of guys are back in the office, going back into the city, and then they want to golf, do triathlons, play basketball, the real active people. So what I do fits in perfectly because we're getting people to perform at their best, feel their best, stay at their highest cognitive capabilities, their most restorative levels of sleep that they can get when they're doing the right things by their body. So, it was a natural fit for my vision for health. And these people had the means to get the care that we didn't have to play games like wondering if an insurance company was going to cover their cure because they can cover it themselves. So it was
sure.
hindsight, great decision to go there. I didn't know much about it prior to going there, but I've learned where I'm at, and obviously there's not much to dislike about it. The longer you're there, the more you like it. and
Sure.
and then you realize when you leave the area sometimes and go into the average kind of town that just how nice where I am is, aside from
Well,
what.
what's so interesting about the area that you're in and what you do, like a combination of those things, right? It's like we talked about this a little on the phone too. It's like my business is located just on the outskirts of Atlanta, right? And there are so many people here that even some of the cities on the outskirts of Atlanta really focus on that marketing approach of like, how fast can I get to my next client, right? Like, how fast can I get my message in front of the next person?
Mm.
And in every industry, I'm not just attacking the healthcare industry, so don't perceive me saying, everyone in Atlanta sucks at what they do. It's not that at all. I just think that there's so many people in such a tight space that you have to be very focused on grabbing some of that market share when you're in some of these industries where there is competition, right? And the reality is that is one of the number one things I think that shifts people's focus away from healthcare to sick care, as you put it, right? I think what you said is perfect. It was a natural fit for your vision because your vision is to make people healthy and perform at their highest level, right? Where potentially someone could come into that community and focus on what are the things that I can provide that generates the most revenue for me because all of these rich people around me have this disposable income to spend on that service. And I think that is what was so interesting about your story to me is that even though you came to this place where there are, I mean, just indiscernible amounts of wealth from everyone walking around you, that you don't focus on the things that generate 100% the most revenue for you. It's more so still taking that holistic approach of what are the things that you can do to make your body work better instead of what are the things that I can sell you for
Correct.
whatever reason that benefits me. You know what I mean? That's what I think is so difficult about it is it's so hard for people in health and wellness industries to balance um, I want to make you better because that is who I am as a person and that is what I learned. And I have to run a business and I have to market and I have to manage finances and I have to manage employees and I have to do all the business things. Like it's not the easiest thing in the world to wear those two hats. And I would imagine that when it feels like you're in the land of opportunity, you're like everyone around me can do whatever they want all the time. That naturally, I think most people's brain shifts to where we're going to sell them stuff that really helps us get where we want to go in life. And it doesn't seem like you guys have kind of fallen into that trap, right? So at least from the outside looking in, it's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, well, that's really insightful of you. So that is true. I didn't, if I wanted to do business, I wouldn't have went to school for 10 years, to be a doctor. I would just cut it down to 4, saved all the money on student loans and gone out and sold stuff. Most of my family is in sales and business, and that just didn't interest me. To me, I tell my staff when I'm training them, I tell, well, pretty much anyone who's coming into my office to work with me or be associated with me, or any doctor who I'm going to work, in conjunction with in a referral basis or anything, they know that we're a patient-centered office is what I tell people. What does that mean? What is a patient-centered office, right? That means we make decisions for the patient. We don't, to your point, we don't just say, hey, we'd love to really sell this vitamin. Let's get a bunch of people to sell it. Like, if they don't need it, we're not recommending it, and we will recommend what they need. So patient-centered, and also, I guess the way I could explain a patient-centered office is if you go to your general practitioner and, you're there once a year and you walk in and there's a lady behind the desk, she doesn't look up, she doesn't acknowledge you, she doesn't even know your name. And she just says, sign in, sit down, have a seat. You sit there, maybe your appointment was for 1:00. Maybe you get in at 1:45, 1:30. You're in there with the doctor. He sees you maybe 2-3 minutes, writes something down on a piece of paper and leaves. That's what people think healthcare is. And that's a doctor-centered office, right? Like, you didn't matter. Just getting you on the books, getting that bill out to the insurance company, as long as they check the boxes that an insurance company requires for reimbursement, they'll check the box, you're gone. The person who walks into that office, what they're going through that day, doesn't necessarily matter. Now, I'm making a generalization. This isn't the case for all general practitioners,
Sure.
but the system dictates this. This is how you're going to get paid, right? It has to be high volume. A primary care doctor can't see 8 people in a day and keep his office open anymore. And typically now, even that doesn't even happen because the hospitals have bought all the doctors up. Like, all the practices now, especially in my community, you don't really go see a doctor in private practice anymore. You'll see that in a more holistic, natural health field, like where I'm at, because hospitals don't tend to, they're working very closely with the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies, and they're about profit, right? So if they were to incorporate our methods of care, people are going to get less care, right? I mean, if you're a chiropractic patient alone, not mentioning acupuncture, nutrition, exercise, diet, right? If you're just a chiropractic patient alone, you use 87% less pharmaceuticals. So think about that, right? That's a staggering statistic. That means you're a different person, right? That means you're literally expressing a completely different level of health and vitality. You're healthy primarily, right? 87% less pharmaceuticals. We don't really fit in that model, right? And so that's where it's like, well, then why play in that model where that arena is not set up for you?
Sure.
So we can put the patient first when they come in. A patient can talk to me about everything, right? You walk into my office, you get greeted by the front desk person. They know your name. We know your story. We got patients come in and have been seeing 20 years. You give them a nice big hug, some of the elderly, and it's just great. It's a great environment. And that environment probably is something that most doctors would love to have. But the way the system is set up, they can't really afford to do that. They don't have time to do that. So I'm not speaking to denounce medical practitioners.
It's not the people.
Their hands
It's
are kind of tied.
It's the perception. Yeah, and the perception from consumers that this is the only option and this is what the system is.
Right. Well, I mean, you have a $4 trillion industry marketing this, right? 4 trillion, right? I mean, people think oil's big. Oil's like 200 billion a year. Pharmaceuticals is 4 trillion a year. I mean, there's nothing even coming remotely close to competing with that industry. So that's what's driving what people, like you said, their perception of what it's supposed to look like, right? You have a commercial telling you, go ask your doctor about this medication, right? Right. You don't have a commercial like, go ask your doctor about blueberries and how they're good for your heart, and because blueberries can't be patented, right? So no one's interested in selling blueberries because you can't trademark them and say they're yours alone. So, and that was one of the major reasons for the increase in medicine anyway, was just profitability over patenting non-natural. You can't patent blueberries; they exist in nature. So and if you reduce it to just that, it really opens your eyes. And like I said earlier, it liberates you from why decisions are being made for certain people by the industry to go down ways. And sadly, it's profit. And you were just saying, it doesn't seem like Greenwich Wellness, Dr. Massoud puts profit first. You have to have profit to run a business, right? I mean, you can't keep your doors open. So you must demand payment for what it is you're doing. But, I chose a path of following a passion and a pursuit and dedicating my energy and time to people so they can be better. And, I should be rewarded as such too, right? I mean,
Right.
and getting that next patient, like you talk about, where's that next patient coming from? To your point, I've seen a lot of people come and go in 20 years in the town, in my industry, come and try to set up shop in Greenwich, Connecticut. And they were thinking along the lines of what you were referring to earlier, which is, oh man, there's so much disposable income here. I'm going to come in, I'm going to tap to it. But people are very discerning. They don't have a lot
Sure.
of money because they don't think about it all the time, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
you can't achieve wealth if that's not what's on your mind, right?
Yeah.
So,
Not a lot of people that aren't very smart make a ton of money. You know what I mean?
right, right. I mean,
It's a rare thing for somebody that's not super smart to be just filthy rich.
right, right. I mean, exactly. Unless you have some amazing athletic gift or artistic ability, but in a general work, corporate world, you have to really excel. And you also can't, you won't put in the amount of hours in a day that it takes to achieve that wealth if it's not what's driving you. So I've
Right.
seen a lot of people open, but I can tell it is a discerning population. They are educated and they can definitely tell if you're just trying to sell them stuff. And I've seen a lot of people come in, chiropractors come and close, acupuncturists, like, and I've seen a lot of businesses pop up like, we're going to tap into this, and it's not genuine, right? They're doing what you said. Where's the next patient coming from? They're marketing their campaigns, they're flooding, but when people get in the door, they're not having that magical customer experience. Or in the case of healthcare, they're not feeling cared for. They're not, they're like, man, this guy, I don't know. I don't think when you go see a doctor, you should feel like you're being sold anything. Doctor means teacher, right? So you should be taught on what it is you need to do and how to be healthy and how to stay well. So, and then when you start teaching people, that message is sincere, it's genuine. They can pick up on it. And then when they benefit from what you're doing, the checkbook opens, the wallet comes out. So you mentioned this in our conversation, like, outside Atlanta, it seems like everyone's just trying to get the number, get the next person. I don't know. It's not me. That's not how I operate. And I can tell you in my community where I work, those businesses don't last. They don't last because um, the perhaps because the more affluent someone is, the more educated someone is, the more successful it is, the more intuitive they are about the intention of the product or whoever's delivering that product. And when you're coming in with just that intention, like, we just want all the people and we want all your money, they don't tend to last in these, like, bubble of affluent communities, because results are ultimately what matter, right? So, if you have to give an amazing customer experience. And I think that's a message for your show and your listeners, that most people probably would think when they're starting out a business, but when the bills start rolling in, when the overhead starts coming in, when you're looking at the lease, you're looking at payroll, you're looking at payroll tax, all these different things are coming in, it can get overwhelming where you're like,
Sure.
we just need numbers. We just need more people, more volume, more volume. And it's true. You do, but you
But the
can't
way you
decide
get
it.
there is putting your customer first.
Exactly.
Like those two things are directly related. I've said it so many times on the podcast that I'm sure people that listen to it all the time are sick of hearing it. But when I say by putting your customer first, you are putting profit first. You know what I mean?
Well, who's paying you?
That is what you're doing. If your customers are not happy, you are shooting yourself in the foot, whether there was an exchange of currency or not. Someone could have bought your most expensive service that you make the highest margin on in your whole entire office. And if you burn the relationship with that customer after providing that first service, you've lost money.
Uh-huh.
You are net negative on that one relationship. Even
Right.
if you put a couple $1,000s in your pocket, because the network or referrals or opportunities that you could have tapped into by putting your customer first is absolutely gone. I mean, we talk a lot about exponential growth. We see a lot of graphs in our mind when we think about the word of business. You want to do this thing, this rainbow, that is not put your customer first. It doesn't matter about profit. It doesn't matter how many people you can see. If you don't put your customer first and you don't find a way to make your customer feel like they're right, it's going to be really, really hard to do what you do. That's 100% fact.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for what I tell my staff, because not everyone who works for me is as passionate about helping people as me, and they don't have to be. They're not the doctor, but they have to support the mission of the doctor and the practice. But if a patient has a bad experience or a customer has a bad experience, they're going to tell a lot of people. People love to complain and talk about stuff that went wrong, but
Absolutely.
you could blow someone's mind, and they may not tell anybody. They're just going to feel good, keep it to themselves. I mean, when the opportunity arises, they're going to mention you and pass you along. But I don't know how many people come up to you throughout a day and said, "Oh my God, I just went to this grocery store and it was so good. It was so quick. It was so convenient." Or, it's typically, "You're never going to guess what happened to me today. This person did this, boom, boom." So the exponential negativity that comes from not putting a customer or a patient first, I've noticed is it spreads way beyond positivity. So you really
Absolutely.
got to make sure, at the end of that transaction, that customer feels, they got what they paid for, and it was sincere and honest in its delivery. And that's just not everybody's nature when they go into business.
Sure.
I guess if you're like a major corporation, like some of these big box stores, customer service is terrible, but one of them in particular employs more people than anyone else in the world. They've been, and they have class action lawsuits lined up for days. I won't mention names on the show, but I think everyone knows the store. And service is terrible. I don't care, but their profit is so high they don't have to cater to you.
Sure.
So go to a smaller store if you want better service, but we have cheaper prices, right? So I guess if you're a massive conglomerate, then customer service kind of goes out the window. But if you're building a business,
Mm-hmm.
good luck.
It's the exact same scenario in my industry, right? Like, there's only about 5 or 6 companies whose job is to go out there and buy up hundreds of acres of land and wherever it's flat and there's not a lot of buildings to put servers and all this technology in one place. And all those 5 or 6 companies are their job is managing all that credit card data that passes back and forth. And
Gotcha.
then that next step down is the people that put the skin on it and turn it into a website for businesses to be able to use. And then the next down is a company like me who is taking that technology and using it as a tool to sell to merchants and create revenue, right? Well, let's say you're like, okay, maybe I can. This happens to me a lot where I'll quote somebody the cost of a point of sale and then they'll go online and they'll Google that same point of sale and they'll say, well, I just found it online for, $1,000 less. And I'm like, listen, if you buy that from that link where you see it for $1,000 less, you'll
Mhm.
never talk to anyone on the phone again in the credit card processing world.
Right.
You'll get it in the mail. They won't tell you how to set it up. You'll hope for the best. Because you are a person in business that works very hard and figures stuff out, you'll figure it out over a month or two. You're a sharp person, right? But when you have questions, you won't be calling anybody. You'll be sending an email. You'll be waiting for 2 days. You'll have a 3-year contract, and they'll end up charging you double monthly, whatever I would charge you for the same thing.
Yeah.
Like there it is the exact same thing in my industry where these large conglomerates, the handful of companies out there that are responsible for really managing all of the technology that exists in my industry. They have no problem throwing up a website and chucking some of their hardware up there and seeing if people buy it because it's just another mid for them. Should someone wander through that sales channel, it's just another free deal that they don't have to pay someone like me to manage. And those people are always the people that come around to people like me and say, "Hey, can you help me?" Right? Because I have a terrible experience. Right? Like one of my really good friends that's in the commercial insurance world. He actually works with us here. He told me one time, he was like, "I'm always everybody's third insurance agent." He's like, because the first time they go and buy it offline, and then the second time they find somebody and they say, "Hey, can you help me?" And then they get upset because someone either sold them really low amounts of coverage, and they get in an accident and they're pissed off because they don't actually have any help. And he says, and then they find me and I write them the coverage they deserve while they have an accident on their policy, and then we go from there, right? It's like I'm always everybody's third insurance agent, and those are my best clients. It's kind of the same way as in mine, and probably similar to you, right? Is like the perception of what our systems are in all of our industries is not correct when it comes to the merchant side. Especially, it isn't representative of us. I'll say that, and it's hard to overcome those things, you know. And once you can let people know, it's the best thing about it is once you can show people that you're a little different than the industry standard, people really go to bat for you. You know, they're willing to refer you and help you grow your business and do the things that people really don't want to do for people they don't trust. You know what I mean? It's a really interesting thing, this cycle that you go through in small businesses, just trying to find that pain and that niche that your industry puts on other people, and alleviate some of that because it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean? I think that's really the most customer centric that you can be.
It is. And then there's this weird like paradox for some, like you start off that way. Companies get so big, can they stay rooted in that? I mean, there are some companies that still put the customer service first. It's like when capitalism works or free market works so well,
Right.
the
Yeah.
company, when you really succeed at capitalism, the service almost suffers,
Yeah.
and I guess that's a good problem to have, being $1 billion corporation, but not everyone's doing that, and
Right.
if that's your goal, then fantastic. And if that's what you achieve, fantastic. But, I use a very small local insurance agent in town. I try to use small businesses for everything I can. There's been a few situations with our tech in our office over the last few years with some of the changes that Microsoft has made, where we've been forced to kind of go away from local IT guys.
Mm-hmm.
And Microsoft's pitch is, well, it's going to cost you less, you're not going to need them, you're not going to, well, good luck getting a human now, you know what I mean?
Probably the same as my industry. I don't know this, and I don't remember if we talked about it on the phone, but I would guarantee you that your credit card processing is wrapped into whatever software you use. I would bet every dollar that I have on it, because it's just your industry.
Well, right, yeah, I mean, we when we use when we switch softwares for our office, they basically told us there's like two processing companies you can choose from.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't know what the relationship is behind that, and
There's
but
no
we
telling.
do not utilize your software to its fullest ability. So I think I was telling you, I had a local sales agent who I used forever for my credit card processing, part of a bigger company, as you informed me.
Sure. I mean, everybody is. Yeah, you can't avoid
Right. I
it.
mean, it all sounds like it trickles down, right? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
like energy company, but
It's very similar.
right. So what? But as you move on to these bigger softwares, especially when you're talking about technology, these solutions, you're like, okay, well, you're like, well, we use this credit card processor. Well, like, all right, well, it's not going to talk to the software, so.
Yeah.
Well, then what's the point, right? I mean, if you can't, do your accounts and and receive
Yeah,
money.
everything makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what happens. There's companies like mine that either make those relationships and say we'll pay you, right? Wonderful business plan, especially if you support those people well. The other thing is that companies like mine get big, and then they find those softwares when they're like in these adolescent stage, couple hundred users, and they're like, I'll just buy you. I'll just buy the whole thing, keep signing people up. We'll keep paying you. Everybody has to use us for credit card processing, right? Like that's kind of the two big plays. And
Gotcha.
I'll tell you, there is, as I hold that against zero credit card processors, we've done it. We have a bunch of those relationships, but like those people call my office or my cell phone. You know what I mean? It's just like there are ways to scale your business without abandoning the idea of putting your customer first. That's really all it is. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to give it up, no matter how big you are. Like I remember a day when, and you probably remember this too. Like, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York. I'm from New York. Yeah, Central New York.
Maybe. This is a maybe for you. But I grew up in like outskirts of Atlanta, rural area, right in between Alabama and Georgia. So when you go to Home Depot, there's like a representative on every single aisle,
Mm.
right? There's like someone on every aisle, ready to answer any question. They'll walk you all the way across the store and help you find the next thing. Like, I remember going to Home Depot as a kid with my parents and being like, these people are insane. Like, they really want to. The Home Depot experience is a real thing. It's not just on the
Yeah,
commercials.
yeah. You got a guy telling you how to do the
Yeah.
project, what to be
I
done.
challenge you to go to Home Depot today.
No, I know. Now
There's six
I'm
people
almost
that work
like,
in the whole store.
now
Like,
I'm like,
you're
I'll just
just,
order the part online because
yeah.
I'll find it quicker.
And that's why.
Yeah. No, Home Depot now is not what it was. Yeah, it used to
Yeah,
be known for, there's going to be a guy who knows, paint, and he's going to get you paint.
exactly.
There's going to be a guy who knows plumbing, and he's going to, now, I was in Home Depot the last time I was there, and I asked a person, like, where's this, product I was looking for? And they're
Couldn't
just like,
tell you.
and then, it was an aisle over, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they were stocking the shelf. I'm like, you're stocking the shelf. You don't even know where the products you're stocking
Yeah,
come.
it's a strange thing. It really is. I mean, like, obviously we've gone through some weird stuff, right? Like this whole Great Resignation thing and the quiet quitting thing of my generation and all these different things. Small business isn't easy. Being an entrepreneur isn't easy. And I don't say that like you put your customer first, everything just falls into place. It's super easy. It's a thing to do. Everybody give it your best shot. It's not.
No,
You have to educate yourself. You have to know what you're getting into. You have to talk to a lot of people, but I can tell you how to mess it up. You know what I mean? I can't tell you what the key to success for you is going to be, whoever I'm talking to listening to this podcast, but I can tell you that if you don't pay attention to what the people you're selling stuff to need, your venture will be short-lived. That is a fact.
for sure. I mean, that's what sales is, right?
Absolutely.
Knowing who's in front of you, what they need to hear in the way they need to hear it to get them to ultimately understand you have the solution for them. And
Well, tell me this: how do people find you? How do they call you? How do they pick your brain if they want to buy something from you?
so right now we the greenwichwellness.com. That's GREENWICH. Greenwich is what a lot of people who aren't from the area tend to call it, but it's Greenwich. And greenwichwellness.com is a website. We'll be having the telehealth links going up there. So if you're outside the area, you could do a telehealth visit for like internal medicine. I'm doing a lot of work with like, allergies, digestion, blood sugar handling, just the biggest things that are going on in our
Sure.
country, cardiovascular health. And so, if you really want to get your health going that way, obviously the hands-on work in terms of the spinal manipulations and acupuncture, if you probably have to get that in your own area, but certainly we would guide you, tell you what to look for, what to need there. And also I've launched a YouTube channel that's now up, which is going to encompass pretty much all aspects of healthy living and getting people away from the sick care model. So that's called Massoud Method, Massoud Method on YouTube. So that just recently went up a couple weeks ago. So there'll be content coming from there. You can subscribe and like to that, and from there, it'll be everything from mindset to diet to health conditions, how to treat common conditions. Right now, some of the videos are up there are dealing with digestive disorders that people are being over medicated for. So it's going to cover all areas of health and wellness. And then if there is a product that, I like that has worked great for my patients, then, we'll try to make it available. I'm looking into some of the vendors now to see if we can make stuff available that we give to our patients so they don't have to come into the office to buy it. So, just as you would probably had some experience in e-commerce with processing and stuff, we're incorporating that in. And to your point, I don't recommend something I haven't tried myself, So there's a couple other products I'm currently working and working on myself that I'm excited to announce soon. So that'll be coming out on Massoud Method. But that's how you find me.
Cool. Well, the last question I have for you is really related to the name of the podcast, right? Like, you burned the ship, you went all in on your business, and here you are, right? Still experiencing
So
the
there.
different stuff, still having to work really hard. It hasn't gotten any easier, but it's gotten better, I'm sure, more fun.
Yeah.
If you had to sum up this entire experience, right, for the people that are in the first 6 months of business still trying to figure it out, or 6 months away from starting their business because they don't know exactly what they need to know to start confidently, right? Like, for those people that are seeking that same experience, what is flipping that light switch and going all in on your business done for you?
Uh, it's allowed me to be who I am and to never ever, not look forward to going into work. I wake up every day really excited to go to work and help people. So if that's if you have a passion, it's a cliche, kind of a trite statement. If you love what you do, you'll never work it. I'm working. I'm not going to say I'm not working, and I love what I do, and I work my ass off, but I do love what I do. So the passion, it's too I can't be told what to do as an individual. So me going and having someone tell me what to do every day and how to do it was never an option anyway. So, it doesn't work well. I mean, for me particularly. Uh, I try not to tell others what to do unless they want me to tell them what to do, and I try not to be told what to do, but going all in, listen, they say what, 10,000 hours, right? To, master
To
your
be a
craft.
master. Yeah.
Right. Well, for me in particular, and I would think for most business people, I didn't have any business education. I was a doctor. I was in school for 10 years. They don't teach you how to be a businessman and how to run a business. And if you go into the medical community, the hospitals are running most of your stuff. You don't really have to think about that. But when you go into a field like what I'm in, most of the guys end up having to be entrepreneurs, and you have no knowledge of that. So I would say
Absolutely.
the first 5 years running your business was basically you're getting an MBA. And what you want to do is you want to learn on the cheapest. It's going to, I've probably made millions of dollars worth of mistakes in my first 5 years. And it's an expensive MBA. So I would say don't be discouraged. That's a real expensive MBA, right? I could have got one a lot cheaper in a year.
That's a good perspective. I've never
Right.
heard anybody frame it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, wow, I
Yeah.
paid a lot for that MBA. So what I try to do is I try to tell young doctors, people, who I've mentored and stuff, like, listen, you're about to make like a $500,000 mistake. Like, but you have to make mistakes. If someone can hold your hand along the way, you find a mentor, fantastic. But, your first 5 years are just, you just want to be profitable and you want to keep going. And if you take a setback in your first year or two, and that's enough to break you, you weren't meant to be in business anyway, really.
100%.
Yeah. So, it's wisdom acquired through experience.
And that's why we are talking to you, my friend. We are, at Burn the Ship, we're just hoping to grab any experience or wisdom or set of skills that we can and pass it on to people, and really to highlight just something to leave everybody with is like, the people that we talk to on this show are normal people, right? Like, I'm a very normal person. I didn't know any of this stuff. I got into this business world when I was 20 years old with, a blown out knee, just at a weird place in my life. Like, I was college athlete turned into barely walking salesperson. You know what I mean? Like, it was a weird jump in my life. And the reality is that it's going to be for you too, right? Like, there's no way to know all the X's and O's and game plan that you're going to experience whenever you're coming into your business. But if you work really hard at it and you lean on some other people and you ask some people for help, never hurt. You can do it. It's just, it's a normal thing. You know what I mean? Not knowing what is the correct road to go down without a little bit of experience. No matter how many of these podcasts you listen to, you're still going to have to pay for some of that learning yourself. That's just what it is. We don't learn everything that we need to from that negative or positive experience from other people. Sometimes you have to try it on for size, but don't be scared of it. Like I said, you can figure it out. I'm a pretty
Absolutely.
good example of that. So
yeah, well, you don't know what you don't know. So
for sure.
And you got to take your licks.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really in all aspects to very successful right out of the gate, building a practice in my town. Exploded quickly, but I still made a lot of expensive mistakes, and because I was a doctor, not an entrepreneur. My vision was entrepreneurial.
Sure.
What I saw happening was pretty unique and not being done in my area, but I still didn't know how to run a business. I just cared for people immensely, and then you had to you got to get those skills. I don't really think it matters what you do, what business you're in, unless you've already. Maybe it's easier once you've already opened a business to open another one, But I think all entrepreneurs have to take those hits. But if you got the entrepreneurial spirit, you're not sleeping at night anyway because you're thinking of what you need to do. You might as well put it into action.
Yeah, might as well. Yeah, free time. Well, I appreciate it, my friend.
It was a pleasure being here, Bailey. Thank you.
Yeah, no, anytime. We'll edit it over a couple of weeks. We'll get it to you anywhere you want to put it. You're more than welcome. But I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, man. Thank you. I'm glad we connected.
Yeah, always. Well, yeah, this has been Burn the Ship. I appreciate it a lot. Really, it means a lot to me. We'll talk again. Once we get this edited, I'll reach out to you again, and then anything we can do for you, just let me know. Give me a call.
I
Okay.
appreciate it, man. Sounds great. Be well. Thanks for having me.
Cool. All right. See you soon, my friend. Take it easy. All right.
Got it, bud. Later.